What's up, my sweet little squids? You're listening to the YNGP podcast. This is a show where I, Yami Noob, motorcycle YouTuber and MotoGP fanatic, and the esteemed and eccentric Whitney Hazelmeyer chat about all things racing, MotoGP, World Superbike, Moto America, and more. We cover the latest races, all of the news both on and off track, and give you our opinion on what's going on in the world of motorcycle racing. If you want to watch these live and participate in giving us comments, questions, and more, join our community over at www.yaminoob.co. Sign up as a member and get access to our exclusive Discord server, entries to win our fantastic giveaway motorcycles, discounts on our store, rental bikes from Twisted Road, and more. Let's get into the show. What is going on, everyone? Welcome to the inaugural episode of the YNGP podcast. We are so excited to be bringing you an hour's worth of racing coverage every week. This is going to be covering MotoGP, Moto America, World Superbike, anything and everything racing related for an hour. If you want to watch these live, as mentioned on the top of the podcast, join over at yaminoob.co. I am here with Whitney Hazelmeyer, and I've got myself, Yami Noob, here in the studio.
His self, myself, here we are.
All the selves are here. There's a lot to cover today. This is hot off the heels of the Thai GP. We're going to kind of go over the top of the podcast here, what we're going to be talking about. So Fabio's title chances are crumbling.
Oh, God!
Just 2 points separating the factory Yamaha rider and Pecco Bagnaia. It is all coming down to the wire. It's all coming down. 2 points.
Dude, if I was Fabio, I would have crashed.
Oh, my God.
I would have just crashed my bike, man.
Yeah, so much to say about his performance. Alesia's still in the mix with 20 points left to go as well for him. But Miguel Oliveira, the man of the show, snagged another stunning wet race win. He's kind of turning himself into a wet race specialist at this point.
KTM Merman, I think is what they were calling him.
KTM Merman. I love that title for him. Also, dangerous conditions at Thailand. Cal Crutchlow was saying some crazy stuff about it. And Zarco checking up to gift Pecco some of those extra points as well. Is Ducati finally cracking down with the team orders?
That seemed kind of what was going on, right? Like he was being a little gentleman about it. There's
a lot to say about that. That's one of our big opinion pieces on it. I also wanted to add this in as well. Will Marquez spoil Pecco's chances? The Repsol man's now always in the mix for podiums and could snatch away those vital points.
He's waiting for the 100th podium, right?
He's getting that 100th podium. I just want to put that out there as a Rossi simp myself. As we let's give a quick little prayer to him. Man over here snagged himself 199 podiums, so Marquez has a long way to go for that record. Yeah, retired in his 40s. The greatest of all time. Let's just give him a quick shout out. And we've also got some news off track about MotoGP going to Kazakhstan and India.
Dude, I bought my tickets already. I'm ready to go.
You want to go to Almaty? You want to hang out there with the goats and the sheep?
They love freedom there.
They love freedom there. It's totally not sports washing. We're totally not trying to do this. Hey, don't look at what's going on over here. So lots to talk about. Stick around. It's going to be a great podcast. But I think we should start off with the race itself, Whitney. What do you think? Let's recap the race.
Okay, where do you want me to start, man? So Bezzecchi in qualifying gets pole position,
first one of his career.
That's
stuffed it up there.
And so he was a protege of Rossi.
Yes, he is part of Rossi's VR46 Academy. There's lots of riders on the grid that are Franco Morbidelli, Pecco Bagnaia, Marco Bezzecchi, Luca Marini. All these guys are at the ranch and training with Rossi and his team. So he has like his little incubator of talent.
Super exciting, but it's also fun to watch. Like right before the race, like they're in the paddock and you can see who's nervous and who's not. Like you're getting to peer into their soul.
Yes.
A little bit. And a lot is on Bezzecchi's shoulders, right? I mean, oh God, he's Rossi's watching, you know.
Yeah. Rossi's absolutely watching. It was just really cool to see.
And then turn one. What?
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, like, they had the whole weekend where it was dry race conditions.
Yes, and people were running out of soft compound tires in preparation for a potential downpour.
Yes, and then all of a sudden, that downpour came. It obliterated the Moto2 race. They just called it. They were like, we're not, this is done, whatever.
So you watched it. I didn't watch it.
Yeah, so what I do on the weekends, I'll watch MotoGP, and then if I have time, I'll check out the Moto2 race.
So what happened in the 2 laps?
Oh my God. No, so it was a complete show in Moto2. It was like, I think about only I think they didn't even cover 2/3 race distance until the spray was so bad that like the cameras, you couldn't even see the riders on camera. So imagine being on track, being like, where's my braking marker? Where's this turn? They just called it. They were like, red flag, get everybody off the track. They waited to see if it was going to come back, and they're like, well, the Premier class is about to come up, so let's just call this race. So everyone was awarded half points, which was weird. It was super weird.
They should have special rain bikes. Or why not just like
they do? Well, the bikes, they have rain tires and rain settings. Like
I'm talking
like pretty
close.
close.
Cheaper, heavier. Like doesn't matter if you crash it. Like old school racing.
Man, they definitely crash those bikes. Like you think they don't matter.
Yeah.
They're just bending them. But as we mentioned, Bezzecchi on pole, super awesome. Fabio Quartararo started in 4th place. Somehow.
And then what happened?
Yeah.
And then what happened?
He
unraveled like an old sock.
It was rough to watch. Fabio basically from turn 1 got just swallowed up and then had no pace whatsoever. He was a second and a half off each lap. It was tough to see.
What's his history with wet riding?
Bad.
Oh, okay. Bad. So he knew. He was just like, whatever, see you later.
Yeah, he's only done well once in a flag-to-flag situation where it was dry, then wet, then dry, and that sort of thing. But normally it's like, that's not his situation. He's not a wet weather guy.
And it sounded like the KTM riders were. Like they were
Miguel's a wet weather guy for sure.
Which is so cool. They're like,
yeah.
Bring the storm, bring the heat. This is my time to shine.
Yeah, you'd see, so Jack Miller, Marc Marquez, and Miguel Oliveira are kind of known as these kind of wet weather specialists.
Oh yeah, those are the badass dudes.
What's cool too is Danilo Petrucci was back in the grid from Moto America. He's a former MotoGP rider. He's also a wet weather specialist, but he hasn't been on track in GP in a long time, so he was way in the back with the Suzuki. But the wet weather is always this kind of equalizer, you know.
Yeah.
It's really interesting to see.
Sink or swim.
Yeah, no kidding. But Merman, what would you call him? Merman. KTM Merman, Miguel Oliveira put it up 1st place. 2nd win of the season for him, which was great. But Fabio started 4th place. And once I saw the forecast, I was like, he's screwed. I was like,
done.
He's completely screwed. And that's what happened. He finished P17. Not a single point for the boy.
Just crash your bike, dude. Just
no, you gotta finish.
No, just get a DNF.
Just yeet it.
Just get a DNF,
it's better to crash than to finish 17th.
Yes. How are you gonna sleep?
I don't know. It's so crazy because, again, 6 or 7 rounds ago, Pecco was 91 points back. No, but everybody was like, this is impossible. There's no way he can do this. There's literally no way Pecco can come back from this. And here he is now where it's like, there's no way he won't win the championship. Because if you look at his progression in points, it seems inevitable. That he only has to get 3 more points. No, not even. If he gets 2 more points, he'd win.
You're the point wizard, so I'm going to let you stay in that seat. So
I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but I want to.
It's so hard to do.
I know. I want to cover the race itself. So as we mentioned, disastrous first lap for Fabio, and then Bezzecchi got that penalty.
Okay, that penalty seems outrageous.
MotoGP stewarding at its finest, folks. At its finest.
And then F1 only has 1 more steward, so they have 4. And then MotoGP has 3. Do you have any insight as to what the hell is going on?
I know that Freddie Spencer is one of the stewards. I don't know who the other 2 guys are. And it just seems like they just like throw stuff at a wall and they're like, that's a penalty. I have no clue what the consistency is for the penalties, because you'll see incidents on track. You're like, that's a penalty. Like, again, Taka Nakagami balling his way through people. You're like, how is that not a penalty? And then somehow Bezzecchi was a penalty. It was super weird.
Imagine. And you can watch it in turn 1. What was Jorge?
Jorge Martin, yeah.
Jorge Martin just did what they do at the first corner.
He's just trying to get ahead.
There was nothing aggressive that happened.
No.
And imagine racing, being P1, having all that weight on your shoulders, and then being like, penalty.
Yeah.
I would also just crash my bike. You guys, that's not fair.
And it's also not fair because Jorge Martin did very similar maneuvers and did not get a penalty. So it's like,
they're kind of like, get this guy out of the way a little bit. Like, look, we've got these riders.
I have a lot to say about that. That's our second half of the podcast, is all the opinion pieces that I have about that.
Right. I'm setting you up.
There's a lot to say about that. It was really cool to see Miller strong in these conditions too.
Dude, okay.
I thought he was going to go for the win. He was close, but he just couldn't quite match the pace.
Jack Miller's kind of giving me a boner. Like he in the last, so I've only watched 3 races, but watching him, I'm vibing with him, man.
Yeah, a lot of people do.
Yeah, he's really a phenomenal rider.
Yeah, he's got a lot going on, and it's just so sad that it's the classic Ducati thing of like the rider they're kicking out at the end of the season's figuring it out. It's exactly like Jorge Lorenzo. It's so frustrating to see.
I kind of want to turn around and be like, fuck you.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's what it is. It's like, okay, I'm leaving. Whatever. Watch this.
Yeah. It's going to be really cool to see him factory KTM next year with Brad Binder, because I think they have a similar riding style, and if he helps develop that bike even a little bit, could be really good.
Yeah.
But KTM's always been a little like, well, will they, won't they, you know?
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
I kind of like the flipping him off, like whatever. Here's my parting gift.
He definitely fits the KTM vibe for sure. Like he's a KTM guy more than a Ducati guy.
What's a KTM vibe? Like chaos?
Yeah, like
chaotic
like
neutral or what?
Think about like I don't know, KTM's like Super Duke, aggressive, destroy your competition. Like it's not, you know, Ducati's like polished and smooth and like elegant, all this stuff.
Dude, can someone make me in the Discord one of those, it's like lists all the energies, the chaotic neutral, the chaotic evil of all the racing teams, just as like a newer fan. I want to see.
Yes. We'll try to find that meme, or if someone wants to make it, that would be awesome too. As a small stat that I wanted to put out, Luca Marini crashed out. That was his first ever DNF.
I know. That is crazy.
In 34 GPs. What I tell you about this guy, he's the calculated, very meticulous, methodical.
And he just lost it too,
right?
Yeah,
he just tucked the front end.
Lost it.
I mean, the conditions were treacherous. Yeah. Which we're going to mention as well on the second half of the podcast.
What lap was that? What part of the race was that?
Well, that was pretty early. That was lap 6 or 7. He just tucked it and lost it. Yeah. He still finished the race, but he was 2 laps down. But it was cool to see him get up and still finish it. I thought it was crazy how Fabio just had no pace whatsoever.
Oh, it sucks seeing someone's mental anguish in real time manifested on a racetrack.
Super
You're like,
tough.
Because you feel a part of it. You're like, I don't want to see this, man.
You would have really struggled to see Fabio in 2020.
Well, I'm gonna watch 2020.
You need to watch it because like the guy just fell apart. It was so sad to see. He won the first 2 races and then just like he was nowhere mentally, and he had to work on that so much apparently.
Oh, baby guy.
They're literally babies, by the way, folks. They're like 21 years old. They're so young.
Children.
It's funny. I watched it with my fiance, and we were watching Moto 2, and it was like off track, and like one of them took off their helmet. She was like, He's a child. I'm like, yeah, they're like 17. It's kind of weird. So glad the age limit went up a little bit. We also have to mention, talking about penalties, that Aleix was hit with that long lap.
Okay, please tell me what a long lap is. Like, is there a different,
yes.
like, there's a different part.
Yes.
Because I saw him on one corner.
Yeah. So every track has a long lap penalty section where if you do a no-no, if you do a boo-boo,
where you put a big neon dunce cap
and you got to go the long way around, and so that you lose some time. So it's a penalty.
Drag me too on the...
Yeah. You got to go through there fast, you know? But that's the long lap, and I do think Aleix deserved that for sure.
Yeah.
He did a boo-boo on Brad Binder. He didn't do a good one.
There was a lot of... That one was obviously aggressive, but there's mixed emotions. You're like, well, why did Bezzecchi get a penalty, and then you're going to give him the long lap? But
it was again, MotoGP stewarding is all over the place. It was really cool to see, though, Oliveira and Miller kind of go neck and neck a little bit and battle, but ultimately Oliveira did have the pace. But I thought Miller might take it. I was like, damn, and it was wild too, because if he had taken it, Miller would only have been 35 points off the championship. Right now he's 40. There's 75 left. Again, super unlikely that Miller would take it, because he would then need 3 different miracles to happen. He would need Aleix, Pecco, and Fabio to have bad days, and he would need to keep winning. I mean, it would just be insane, but mathematically possible, right?
75 points up for grabs.
75 points is 75 points. I think my prediction for Fabio winning is just the championship. I don't know. Like, I have a lot to say about that.
I have a lot to ask you about that, so we should
we should probably get into
power
it.
through.
So we have a whole results list here that we don't need to go through, but pretty good day for factory Ducati. They had 2 people on the podium. Johan Zarco finished P4. Lots to say about Zarco.
On fire.
Crazy
Somebody
pace.
Like struck a match and he was like, why?
Crazy pace. He just had the right setup, or
he found the rhythm.
He found a rhythm. He was an eighth of a second faster per lap than the guys in front of him. But there's a lot to say about Zarco. I really want to get into that.
The second half, there's a lot to say.
Yeah, because the second half is kind of my opinion pieces about things and our other think pieces, but we may get into them a little bit quicker. We'll see. So let's talk championship. Pecco's 2 points away from Fabio with 3 rounds left. 75 points up for grabs. Alesia's 20 points away. In my opinion, it's looking like Pecco does have the momentum to win this thing. He just needs...
If he doesn't eat it.
If he doesn't eat it, he could eat it. But he literally just needs 2 decent results ahead of Fabio. That's all he needs to do. All he needs to do to take this championship is just finish ahead of Fabio once or twice, and that's it. You did it.
Be patient.
Yeah.
Be patient, my guy.
But... You know, the tracks coming up, we've got Phillip Island, which is a really flowy kind of track.
Tell me about Phillip Island, because right now I'm so curious how these top 5 are going to do in Phillip Island.
So Phillip Island is a very corner speed kind of track. There's lots of areas where your bike needs to handle better than it just needs to squirt speed out.
Okay, now it seems like Ducatis do better in the straights, right? You watch them f***ing dominate.
Obliterate, yeah.
What's it going to be like for a Ducati on a corner heavy track?
So the riders typically have to square off the corners more with bikes like that. Right. And we actually had a great insight with that because Danilo Petrucci was on track again and he rode the factory Suzuki. He had been riding the KTM, which is a V4, and he'd also been riding the Ducati, which is a V4. He rode the Suzuki, which is an inline 4 bike, and he said that he couldn't believe the corner speeds he could carry. He was like, wow, I can ride this bike so aggressively in the corners, so much faster. You don't have to draw these V shapes. You can actually carve these really fast lines.
It's just a better carving bike.
It's just a different setup. I don't know the ins and outs of why an inline 4 is particularly better than a V4 in corners. I'm sure someone on stream could maybe help me out, but I just know that the inline 4s have massive corner speed and the V4s typically have to square them off a little bit. Okay. So the tracks where you're more on the side of the tire for longer doesn't favor the Ducatis because they can't just squirt out the speed.
So that's Phillip Island.
It's Phillip Island, yeah. So Fabio has a really good chance at Phillip Island, I think. If he doesn't screw it up and doesn't get his own head, he could do really well.
Well, it seems like the rain screwed him up.
For sure.
So it was the rain. So
for sure.
What's the likelihood of it raining for Phillip Island? I mean, I know Thailand is definitely more...
It's a wet place,
That is a wet place, it's unpredictable.
Yeah. I don't know the weather forecast for Phillip Island. It's in 2 weeks away. I don't think anyone does.
It's not going to rain.
Yeah, because if it rains, I think that's championship over for Fabio if it rains. So he's probably going to be praying to the anti-rain gods.
And also known as the sun god.
And the sun god. What is anti-rain? Oh, yeah, the sun. That big ball in the sky. And then we're going to go to Sepang, which has a huge straightaway and could favor that Ducati really, really well. And I think that's where Pecco could deal the death blow.
You've got 6 Ducatis in the top 7 right now?
Pretty much, yeah.
So that's interesting. I like that. And then there's just one Yamaha.
Yeah, that one Yamaha that Fabio's just doing the Lord's work with. But I still think it's going to mathematically go down to Valencia. I can't imagine a situation where anybody wraps up this title before Valencia. So we're going to have a last round.
Down to the wire.
Down to the wire. And there's... I don't want to get too into it, but man, I have so much to say about that. But I mean, realistically, we have 7 riders mathematically in the potential to win the Riders' Championship. You have Fabio Quartararo leading the championship, Pecco Bagnaia 2 points behind, Aleix Espargaro about 20 points behind.
Wait. Okay, Aleix is 20 points?
Aleix is 20 points behind, yeah.
Pecco is -2?
-2.
Damn, all right.
Yeah. And then I think Bastianini is -40, maybe? And then Jack Miller's about 40 as well. And then Binder's like 60-something and Zarco's like 70.
Dude, what is going to happen at the next race?
I don't know. I'm so excited.
2 weeks, right?
Gotta wait 2 weeks. I know. And I am heading off to beautiful I won't say where. A beautiful honeymoon this Monday, next coming Monday. So I will not be doing the Yamcast next
in
Monday.
Here by myself and scream into the camera.
Yeah, even though there wasn't a race, you'll just scream about something.
Wait, you're gonna be gone the second.
I'll be gone that second week too.
That's what I'm saying. I'm gonna come in here alone, scream into the camera.
Yep. So yeah, all these riders mathematically in it, but realistically, it's Fabio or Pecco. With Aleix, I would put him at like a 30% chance of taking it. It's pretty low, but I mean it's Fabio's to lose at this point. He's ahead, and all he has to do is just finish ahead of Pecco every single round, which is a tall order.
But
Pecco could crash because that's what Pecco does sometimes, you know?
Pecco does have a 50% chance of crashing.
Yes, he does. Yeah. I think quite literally. I think his DNF record this year is 50%.
We were looking at it. So we're like, well, okay, so he didn't crash this one, so he's probably going to crash the next race.
I mean, he really, to sink in a podium at Thailand was impressive for him. I was like, that's awesome. Good for you. Like, you picked up a lot of points.
Well, it was probably the rain working in his favor, right?
Yep.
You got to be patient. You got to be more cognizant. You can't just go full dickhead mode and just try to crunch everything. So
yeah. I do want to chat. I want to move ahead a little bit. I wanted to say one more thing about the championship. Yeah, I think Fabio, unless he gets his stuff together at Phillip Island and Valencia, he doesn't have much of a chance of Sepang. I think he's screwed. If he doesn't need to win. It'd be great if he wins because then he can kind of stamp a little bit more and kind of push ahead. But he really has to claw away some points on Pecco at Phillip Island and Valencia because he's not gonna get it at Sepang.
What are the managers at Yamaha doing right now? What are they doing?
So
frying their eyelids?
Lynn Jarvis is the principal at Yamaha, and he's just this very steely-eyed, cool as a cucumber.
Anybody
kind of
with the last name Jarvis should be a steely-eyed, cool cucumber guy.
Yeah, he's just doesn't really care, I think. And ultimately for him, he's like, we're selling a bunch of motorcycles, so whatever. We have a guy who's leading the championship and is getting coverage every single weekend. So if he wins, cool. If he doesn't, whatever. He's still one of the best riders on the grid, if not the best.
Well, and seeing qualifying too, Q2, I mean, these dudes are, 130.9, 130.8, 130.7. I'm like, Jesus Christ. I mean, this is really just a hair's difference.
Yeah. And it's crazy, as I was telling you, if you're half a second off the pace, you're gone. P12.
Well, wasn't Fabio a second? Or
no, he was like 0.2, I think. He put down, I think Bezzecchi did a 129.6, and I think Fabio did a 129.9 or something. I mean, it's tenths. It's literally tenths of a second. It's
1/100ths of a second. I can't fathom it, so I just sit in disbelief while I think about it, or try to at least. So.
Yeah, these boys are just so tight. These tight ass boys,
Oh God!
I think if Pecco notches another win, and if Fabio has another situation like he had in Thailand,
he's got all sorts of situations.
It's game over.
Happening.
It's game. It's so crazy how this went from like Fabio's unstoppable. Fabio needs to he needs a miracle at this point,
The planets are in retrograde and they're just hot diarrhea all over Fabio.
Sweet Fabio. He just has his suit unzipped without his
hot
base
diarrhea
layer
just all over his chest.
Poor Fabio. Because he always rides without a base layer underneath, so he's always in the pits just like with his suit undone and his like tiny little body.
I
just
love
being
the
shown
cameras
off.
are like zooming in on his road rash. I'm like, ew.
It's really weird.
I don't need to see that.
Yeah, the coverage is strange sometimes.
He crashed. A bike went over his body.
Yeah. Anything else you want to recap on the race before we get to our opinion points?
I was really thinking how much I hated the stewards just spanking. Spanking. What's Petrucci?
Petrucci?
Bezzecchi.
Come on, Whitney. Come on.
This is my third coverage of
you're getting there.
Petrucci.
Is Bertoli, Petrucci, Bezzecchi. To your credit, he doesn't get a lot of coverage, so
no, man.
Because he's getting better. He got a podium, I think, so he's getting better.
He's just don't spank the babies, okay? You dumb stewardess.
Okay, so there's a lot more to talk about of what happened in the race. And the first point I want to get into is Zarco.
on fire, unstoppable in the zone.
Until he came up on a rider.
There was a battle. What was it? Battle for third?
Battle for third, yeah.
Battle for third. Putting on the heat.
Yeah.
Pass. What did he start at? 11th?
It started P11, I think. Yeah, on the grid.
Jesus Christ. But then suddenly it was like something weird was going on.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So I think the weird thing that went on with Zarco is he passed, I think he passed Mark, and then he came up on Pecco, and he saw the leathers, and he saw that it was Pecco's leathers, and he's like, I shouldn't pass Pecco.
Why? Oh,
because he doesn't want to mess up the championship.
I was about to say, because then what? Because then it's like
Pecco would lose Pecco could lose precious points.
He could lose everything.
Yeah.
It felt very, he was suddenly, the fire was...
All of a sudden, he didn't have pace, right?
Simmering.
Yeah, and it was confirmed in a post-race interview where he's like, yeah, I saw Pecco. I didn't want to mess him up. I didn't want to run into him. I didn't want to pass him. He played the good Ducati sport. And fair play to Pecco. Fair play.
Are there still not orders?
Technically, no. I mean, Jack Miller passed Pecco.
Okay.
Because if Jack Miller had stuck behind and let Pecco take second...
I feel like Jack Miller's like,
he's not going to do that.
I'm not going to do that.
But if he had, Pecco would be in the lead right now. He would have gotten 4 extra points. He would have gotten 20 points instead of 16.
And then he'd be over. He wouldn't be...
He would be in the lead of the championship now instead of 2 points back. So this is a really tricky situation for Ducati because they have to now manage this situation where if Pecco is on track, and here's the problem. You put out team orders like this, right? And you say, oh, like we want to make sure Pecco gets his points and gets ahead.
Right.
Well, there's 8 Ducatis on the grid, right?
I know.
So what's going to happen if Pecco's really fast. Normally he wins races, he podiums. But in this case in Thailand, he wasn't there, right? And there was a rider behind him who clearly could have passed him, but did not pass him, right? And he kind of gifted him those points in a way. I think Ducati's going to have a really hard time managing this situation to make it look like they're not just gifting Pecco a championship, right? Because imagine this. Imagine we go to Valencia. It's the final round. Pecco's 2 or 3 points back. Someone's behind Pecco, and they can pass him, and he'll lose. But they're like, no, I want to make sure Pecco wins, so they just sit behind him. It's basically going to be like a stop the steal movement, but in GP where they'll be like, they gave Pecco the championship, you know?
Okay, but we all want the drama, right? We all want like just win, but this is kind of what happens when you get all sorts of Ducatis on there.
That's what I'm saying.
You know, it's like that's racing.
Yeah.
And if he did that in his own volition, then
probably because the higher ups at Ducati. So Johan Zarco is a test development rider for Ducati.
Super secret.
They probably went back and they're just like, hey, listen. If you get into this situation, don't pass Pecco. Which I feel like it's bad sportsmanship.
Why?
Because if you can pass, you should pass.
No matter what.
No matter what,
so
I think.
Then you like not having team orders.
I do, yeah. But I think if Ducati wants to win a championship, they need to have team orders, which is lame.
So that's what's happening.
Kind of, yeah. But they didn't give it to Miller. Because Miller passed Pecco. He's like, I don't care. But if they had thought about it, and if they were like, okay, no matter what, Pecco stays ahead. But then the optics are bad, right?
This is what happens, I guess, when you either do full-blown chaos.
Yeah.
They're throttling the chaos, and then the optics are bad.
The optics are bad, yeah. I think that if you can't...
Damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't.
What Pecco needs to do is he needs to just win. He needs to prove that he's faster than everybody, because if he gets into another situation like this where a rider can pass him and doesn't, he's going to look like he didn't deserve the championship.
What was the gap for first then? Like how much was, or for second? What was the gap between
Pecco and Miller? I think it was at least a second or two. It was a gap.
So it was a big gap.
He wasn't faster than Miller.
Okay.
And there was no way he was going to be because Miller's so good in the wet.
So what would have happened had the Flying Frenchman, because Zarco's French, right? I'm also just assuming.
He is the Flying Frenchman. Very good.
What would happen had he passed?
Pecco would have lost points.
But let's talk about that trajectory of what could have been. Do you think he could have gotten second, or he just would have sat in third and then gotten third and then...
Zarco, from his post-race interview, apparently said that he didn't... he was being pretty political. He said that he didn't believe he had pace to win the race, so he didn't pass.
Okay.
So he's like, oh, I wasn't going to pass Pecco because I could see Miller and Oliveira. He's like, I couldn't bridge the gap.
So, right, he could overtake one spot, but what?
Exactly.
It's not worth it.
What's the point, right? All that would do is be like, oh, cool, you took away points from Pecco to get a podium. Cool, yeah. Zarco, why'd you do that? You know, and everyone would be mad at him.
Zarco looks kind of good. He looks like a proper, polite gentleman racer.
He looks like a gentleman racer, yeah. But... It's like if you could pass, why didn't you pass? You know, like it just feels
like a big bowl of knitted spaghetti.
Yeah, I mean, what it feels like. Because I can't remember who the racer was for the quote, but it's like if there's a pass and you don't go for it, then you're not a racer.
Would you feel better right now had Pecco gotten fourth?
Well, I would because I'm a Fabio fan.
Okay,
I want Yamaha to win.
Okay,
but I understand why he did it, and I understand why the situation exists. But I just really worry that if that happens again, and if that's the circumstances with which Pecco wins this championship, it's not going to be a good look for Ducati. Everyone's going to be like, you didn't really win. You gifted it to Pecco. And that's a hard situation to be in. That's
where that 50% DNF is going to come into play.
Yeah. I hope that if Pecco wins this championship, he wins a race and wins it with a... You know, it's like nobody let me win. Nobody saved me the points. I was the best. I won. I did it. That would be the best case scenario for Ducati. Best case. But we'll see. Nobody knows what's going to happen.
I'm excited. I'm so
very
goddamn excited.
Yeah. So yeah, like I said, Zarco, obviously the team player, he wants to stay in the good graces of Ducati and keep earning a good salary. You know what I mean? But I tell you what, if it was Martin instead of Zarco, I think he would have passed Pecco.
100%.
Because Martin doesn't give a
shit. He doesn't give a shit. But also, so what happened? Bagnaia was pretending that he kept Zarco off? Is that what I'm seeing here?
Yeah, so there was comments I saw on another website that said it was quite ungrateful from Bagnaia to pretend that he held off Zarco. Zarco was closing by an 0.8 of a second per lap for the past few laps and swiftly disposed of Marquez. He then stayed there behind Bagnaia. Nobody is dupe. The visit to Ducati that paid Pramac after the race confirms it as well. Because if you watch the footage, the lead guys, it was either Davide Tardazzi or Gigi Dall'Igna, I can't remember, they walked over to Pramac. They're like, hey, shake some hands, like, thanks for that, you know? It just feels slimy, you know?
It is slimy.
It feels slimy.
I mean, that's racing.
It's racing. They haven't had a championship since 2007, you know? Yeah. Like, they really need this. They've spent $750 million.
Three quarters of a billion euros.
Which is, I don't know the conversion right now. It might be a little bit more. I mean, check the chat here, boys.
What are they saying? What are those sweet babies saying?
Two-Wheel Capo saying, all right, bets on Miller making a post-wedding comeback and winning the championship.
Oh, when's he getting married? Are you guys getting married on the same day?
Maybe. I think he said after the race, he's like, I got to go get married first. So he's getting married at some point in the next couple days, weeks. I don't know.
That's kind of
He's probably going to do it in Australia with his family. That makes sense. So they're probably going to travel to Australia and get that done.
He's going to get hitched and then get on a motorcycle and just win.
Yeah. Happy rider's a fast rider. That's what they say. All right. My second opinion point that I wanted to chat about. Was it too dangerous to race at the Thai GP?
There was standing water at turn 3.
Yeah, it was a lake.
Go roll up some towels, strap them to the back of some side-by-side, and get all the water. It's kind of crazy that there isn't some crazy, what are those called, Zambonis?
Zamboni? What is that?
The ice rink cleaning thing.
Oh, yeah.
Zigamatari?
Bertucci? Zigamatari? You just make it up
all
words.
Night, ladies and gentlemen. To dry off the track, to get the standing water off of it. You don't got a big straw. I want every track helper to go out there with a straw and start,
just start sucking it up, baby.
Dude, get the standing water off the track.
Yeah.
These are really expensive bikes.
Yeah, they're really expensive bikes, and they're really expensive riders on top of them.
Expensive riders. You're down to the wire. There's 2 races.
I want to get a quote from Cal Crutchlow, who after the race, who's a stand-in rider for Dovizioso after he retired Mazzano. He said, in the first 3 or 4 laps, I think I was riding 4th gear just off throttle on the straights because I couldn't see where I was going. But anyway, I was still making passes. So these guys are off throttle on the straights, can't see anything. Yeah. He said that the rain lights look like tiny little bicycle lights. It's like you can't see anything, It's pretty dangerous. Do you think that the race should have been postponed or stopped?
Part of me was like, don't be a pussy. But then I'm thinking how expensive everything is these days. It isn't like it was in the 70s.
No.
So I don't know.
I mean, I've raced in the rain before. Yeah, it's not easy. And it's not like, I mean, these are MotoGP bikes. I raced a freaking Ninja 400 in the rain. That's not the same, even a little bit, you know?
I mean, you're asking to alter, like, the rule books, right? It's like, you f***ing get on and you go race. But yeah, there is a lot of money. But also, what was the forecast the next day? I mean, it's
so
just
that's the problem. Mid-race, I remember one of the onboards, they came around the last corner. There's a huge dark cloud. It's like, it's just going to rain more. It's like, as the series promoter, you're like, this race needs to just happen. We don't care how it happens. That's why the Moto2 race got called early, because they're like, Jesus Christ, we got to get GP ready to go. And it was still delayed.
So you know? I think I mostly am leaning, no, it wasn't too dangerous. They made the right call canceling Moto2 and just getting out there. And they're like, there was a patch of sunlight. I saw it for a brief second. And it was drying up.
There was a moment where I was like, is this going to go flag to flag? I was like, is this going to dry up enough to where you might want to swap slicks? I was like, oh my God, this could be crazy.
But also just get a Zamboni out there that sucks up water and like just try to do, it's like, it's weird to not do anything to dry off the track. There was a big torrential downpour. You've got 24 laps, 25 laps. Just clean it off and go.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, race before it rains again.
These guys, they are experienced. They are riding on rain tires. They are doing their best. But the problem is with the spray and the standing water, it is pretty treacherous. But to your point, that is racing. Racing is treacherous even in the dry.
Yeah, what are you going to do? Just like, you know, part the seas for it? Then you're starting.
Yeah.
To me, that's a slippery slope.
Yeah.
Then what else are they going to do to be like, no, we can't. We got it. We need to have the conditions be perfect. And in the future, I envision a vacuum sealed space track where, you know, the conditions are always perfect.
The Lunar GP.
Yeah, exactly. Or just, you know, indoors or not indoors. We'd all die.
Yes.
But I want 18 helicopters holding up a roof.
Well, maybe we wouldn't die because they do Supercross indoors. Some of those stadiums.
Yeah, I'm sure you just...
I mean, I guess the top is open and all the gases go upwards.
I'd wear a gas mask to a GP race. I don't care.
Well, I mean, we got news for later racetracks coming down next year that you may have to wear gas masks, like in Kazakhstan or India and all these places. But we'll talk about that later too. But yeah, the rain was tricky, and it was so tricky for these guys because it didn't rain at all the whole weekend. It started raining race day, time of race. They had 2 laps to go out and just feel it out. Super treacherous.
But I thought that was generous. That's nice.
Yeah, I mean,
go out and get a field, please, and just
you have to. You have to. Like, because the whole thing about practice and qualifying is like you're out there and seeing the conditions of the track and knowing how you're gonna ride. If it completely changes, you're like, well, I don't know what the hell I'm gonna do out there.
Well, but watching Q2, everybody was concerned about rain, and they all had that in the front burner of their mind, and they were on soft tires, burning through them. They didn't care because they knew.
They're like, they're not going to need them.
I'm sure it's the only thing you can think about, especially if you're Fabio. You're like, oh, I'm done for.
Yeah, man, he really...
So wait, do you think that it was too dangerous? Would you have canceled and postponed?
I probably wouldn't have as well, but I really feel for these riders out there.
I do too.
It didn't look like a good time. I mean, the Moto2 guys got it way worse, but it didn't look like a good time.
I mean, you're kind of on cloud 9 to a degree by already being a professional racer. So, I mean...
Yeah, every day's a miracle with them. They're like, this is great. Why, why wouldn't I love doing this? So, Thai GP, maybe a little too dangerous. The next point I wanted to talk about, will Marquez spoil this championship?
Okay, tell me what you're thinking about this, because I thought he was going to go for a podium in this, but it also looked like he kind of backed down suddenly, became cautious.
So I think Mark has the potential to just be like a wrench in the gears, you know? Imagine a situation, again, because the margins are so thin, right? Like it's 2 points. If Marquez is P2 or P3 and Pecco's P4 or P5 instead of P3 or P2, where Marquez would have been, it might be a situation because Mark is showing he consistently is right up there again.
Yeah.
And it's just Mark doing Mark things. You know, he's always there. So I think he has the potential to kind of spoil those vital points that Pecco needs to collect. That's where my thinking's at with this. Do you not agree?
So he spoils the points for Pecco.
Yes, he has the potential to kind of just be in the mix and just mess him up.
Because that's the kind of rider he is. He's kind of a...
Oh, yeah.
He's a shitbag? Is that what
he's
you're
not,
saying?
Hey, relax. Mark isn't a shitbag, but Mark is incredibly competitive, incredibly aggressive, has been chastised for that in the past.
And he's got his sights set on Pecco. Not
on Pecco, but just on doing the best he can. He has nothing to lose. He has no championship to worry about. So he's like, I want to go win.
That's why I'm wondering, what's his calculated...
He wants to go win. He wants to go do the best he can. Because, Mark plays mind games, right? He'll go out in qualifying and be like, I don't know, I'll do fine. We'll see. Pole position. I don't know how to do the race. I'll find P4.
Very interesting when they're in his paddock, like before a race. He's hard to read, but he also, before qualifying, he looked awful.
Really?
Yeah, he just like, but maybe that's him because I don't see him in the paddock a lot, just kind of grimacing and like.
He historically doesn't give a lot away. Not emotional. Yeah. He's known as the Terminator. He just does his job. He doesn't give much emotional information of what he's feeling, and he just does his thing. So I personally think that Mark does have the potential to kind of goof things up for Pecco, because the points are so small.
Pecco has the potential to goof up things for Pecco, and then
exactly, yeah. And we're all hoping that Fabio just somehow just pieces it together.
So you're still like,
I still believe Fabio. He's still in the lead. God damn it!
Well, he's still in the lead.
All he has to do is just not mess it up. But he has the potential to do this.
It was so tough to watch him.
It was really hard. He was just, It was really hard to watch.
It's interesting to see the calculated racers and then the ones who you obviously have to be like emotionally different to be in these kinds of races.
Yes.
And you're motivated different.
Yes.
And you're explosive in ways that most humans aren't. So it does make sense to kind of watch somebody just unravel their brain on the track.
Yeah. And it just, whenever I see that from Fabio, it's reminiscent of his 2020 campaign, where it's like, is this guy in the right headspace again? Is he unraveling? Can he manage this pressure? Can you imagine the pressure?
No.
My God.
I don't want to.
My God, I can't even imagine where it's like, okay, I have the next like 3 rounds to make sure I cinch this thing up.
I hope he's got a good therapist.
I think he has a world-class therapist. He's going to freaking need it.
Yeah, he's just giving them all of his money.
Yeah. Anything else you want to chat about race recap before we get to the kind of off-track news?
Let's go to the off-track news.
All right, let's go to the off-track news. So we have news that MotoGP is now going to go to Kazakhstan, in near the Almaty town,
confused
city.
And kind of angry. And did you look at the track though?
Yeah, it's pretty sweet.
Wild track. It's like a pyramid. What do you think? Okay. So you hit turn 8, straight away.
That straight's insane.
Wide sweeper, and then another little... Like, what do you think about that as someone who races?
Looks like a lot of fun, honestly.
Looks like a lot of fun because you're just like...
I love big sweepers like that because you carry so much corner speed.
There's no chicane. You're just like, boom!
Yeah, no chicane, which is something that we've seen a lot of tracks start putting into because of safety.
Okay, right.
Like Red Bull Ring with their straightaway. It's like, this is crazy. Like y'all hitting like 206 miles per hour into a braking zone, into a hairpin. So this isn't that bad to me because there's a big sweeper after the straightaway. So if it was like a tighter turn after that straight, that'd be disaster.
Yeah, and I feel like do you see this often on like the circuits? Like just a big sweeper?
Yeah, there's some tracks that have that. Misano has a very famous corner called Curvone, which is a massive it's like 180 miles per hour. You take this thing.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's insane. It's called Curvone for a reason. But Aragon is going to be out.
Why is Aragon out?
Well, I'm sure it has something to do with the back end political money dealings of Dorna and everybody else. But I guarantee you the reason this track showed up is because of the money, right? Money. There's no way. And this is a classic case of sports washing, in my opinion.
I worked at a really, really fancy omakase restaurant inside of a hotel. And when GP came to town, the hotel got a whole lot cleaner. We were booked out. We did have Team Ducati in. I mean, it was like scrambling. What's Kazakhstan going to do?
I think they're gonna do the same thing.
Beans.
They're gonna sweep away all the bad stuff, and they're trying to present themselves on the world stage as maybe better than they really are, right?
So they're gonna lock away all the poor people and disrupt all the protesters. And...
like, I mean, Kazakhstan is not really known for its human rights,
no,
right?
God, no.
And this is just a classic case of, let's put on a really great, fantastic show and show all this cool stuff and just pretend like nothing of this is happening, you know?
What were the drivers saying? What was their reaction to this?
So riders didn't have much to say about it. However, we do have a quote from, oh no, that's for the Indian track. So this hasn't been written on yet as far as I know. But I do have some points I wanted to say about it. Because Aragon's out, there actually, in my opinion, is a pretty decent thing. There's 4 tracks in Spain.
Of course there are.
Because of course there are, right?
Of course there are.
Because Dorna's Spanish and everybody's Spanish and all the CEV programs. We get it. It's a Spaniard situation, but it is cool to see more of a world championship feel. But I do think that racing, about 1,000 miles south of Russia's border in an area where there's basically nothing.
Weird. It's the largest landlocked country in the world.
It has the lowest population per square kilometers in the world. It's fewer than 6 people per square kilometer.
It's spent centuries being inhabited by nomadic tribes.
Yeah.
It's just like,
what is this place, And also, Kazakhstani citizens aren't allowed to express their opinions politically freely.
Of course they're not.
The country's only had one single president since its independence from the Soviet Union. Political dissent online is dealt with harshly.
LGBTQ.
Probably awful.
Absolutely.
Probably terrible.
Yeah, it is.
Unbelievably bad.
So.
Amnesty International noted an incident where there was a dozen peaceful protesters. They were surrounded by police officers and forced to stand outside in sub-zero temperatures for over 9 hours before being released. So in my opinion...
race. Let's go racing.
Let's go. Look, GP.
Stop.
Wow.
Don't think about it.
Don't think about people freezing.
Vroom, go fast.
Yeah. And again, there's nothing around this circuit.
No, I don't. Bring a Lunchable, man.
Bring a Lunchable, baby, because there's not going to be much around there. Which is, I think it's cool that MotoGP is opening up to more places in the world. I don't think Kazakhstan is the right location. It's similar to me whenever they were floating the idea of a Saudi GP, and people are like, why? Like, really? The place where women can't drive? Really? We're going to do this?
And that's part of the globe getting a say in it. Like, no, you guys.
Yeah.
We're not going to race there. Why don't you start treating your people better? I always just, God, they're so insecure. Like, the government is so insecure. You can't say anything bad about me because it hurts my pee-pee. It's like, just get over yourself.
Yeah.
Well, okay, I'm shouting that to, thousands of years of atrocities against humanity. So,
yeah, that's a hard one to solve. But you solved it, Whitney. You did it right there. It's over. Yeah.
Thanks for watching.
But we've seen this with F1 and soccer and other sports. Yep. They just try to raise their status with, this situation.
People are going to be mad. Doesn't matter. Doesn't
matter.
They don't care.
No, they don't care at all.
They don't care at all.
They don't care at all.
They're like, deal with it. We're in charge. And then we all go, oh, okay.
Yeah. But the other circuit that's going to be on the calendar is the Indian circuit.
I felt like this made sense.
This makes sense to me. Yeah, this makes a lot of sense. India is not like Kazakhstan with the human rights abuses. There are definitely some weird stuff going on in India, but not nearly to the degrry of these other places. But most importantly...
Lots of fans.
So many fans.
So many
oh
fans.
My God, the motorcycle market there is insane. It makes total sense. Total sense to bring it. But this is mainly a car racing circuit.
Yeah.
So not sure how it's going to work for motorcycling. I
didn't look at the track. Did you look at the track?
I did look at the track. Yeah. It's been compared to by F1 drivers to the Circuit de Spa. So it's a lot of high speeds and corner to corner flow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a really cool layout and looks to be really challenging. A lot of elevation changes they're saying
really?
too. Yeah.
Cool.
So I don't know if it'll be much like Portimao, which is like a roller coaster, but it looks pretty fun. But hopefully they can get the track cleaned up for GP. As if it's a bunch of cars that go out there all the time, that track's going to be beat up.
I'm assuming if you're anticipating GP, you're going to get your together.
Tell that Dakota.
Don't get me started on
Tell that Dakota, which in 21, the riders are like, this is too dangerous to race here. And they're like, whatever. They at least fixed it for this year, which was good. But yeah, you would think, right? You would think that if GP is coming to town, they're going to actually get it together.
It's me being hopeful.
Yeah. But I think the reception is going to be pretty positive for this. It looks really cool that, we're going to have an Indian race on the calendar. Again, the market's going to be crazy for that.
Do you like elevation changes?
Oh, yeah.
Because they're fun, right?
So much fun.
They're fun.
So much fun.
I don't know what to do when I can't see. You're going up a hill and then down. You can't see that corner. You're like, yeah.
That's the fun part.
I'll get there someday. Come with me on this journey. But it's like, that's nuts. I mean, your brain is taking in another dimensional element while riding.
Like when I rode Laguna Seca at the corkscrew, and you just go, like it's so fun. It's so fun to have those elevations. Just super flat tracks are kind of boring. Like Qatar is like, it's just flat.
Well,
it doesn't.
It's desert, right?
Yeah, it's just desert. So it's pretty boring. So I love that this track actually has some elevation to it. Should be really cool. So that's the new circuits that are coming on the calendar. Should be pretty exciting. I think it's going to be insane because we have the sprint races for every single race next year. So we're going to have full length and sprint races all at these new tracks. It's like, oh my God, there's going to be so much coverage,
and what's the reasoning behind sprint races?
They think it'll get people more excited, but I think it's just going to wear these riders out like
sounds
tissue
more
paper.
Expensive
more
too.
Expensive too, yeah.
I mean, imagine crashing into sprint row. Okay, go get the other bike.
So rounding out today's podcast with some honorable mentions, Sean Dillon Kelly, the Moto America Supersport champion, snagged himself P11 in Moto 2 in the crazy conditions. His best ever result, and super happy to see it. He's awesome. Usually languishing back in P18, P20, but he actually had a really good showing in these crazy, tricky conditions. So good work, SDK. Good job. Also wanted to mention that Petrucci was back on track. We mentioned it earlier. He was on a factory Suzuki.
So good he wants one.
Yes.
Does that make you want to ride one too? You're like, oh wait, what are you talking about?
Absolutely.
You're gonna buy one?
It would be, man, if I ever got the chance. You know what's funny is Claudio Domenicali, the CEO of Ducati. I heard this on Revzilla's podcast actually, kind of on the grapevine. He apparently won't ride the MotoGP bike, the Ducati MotoGP bike, even though he could. He's the CEO of Ducati. He could just be like, let me go ride one of those things, right? But he won't do it because apparently he feels that he's not worthy. He's like, it's not my place to ride that. I cannot.
Too scared.
He's like, how much power does that thing make? 300.
He's like, I gotta go.
He watches the clip of it on the straight at Mugello. He's like, no. I'm
not worthy.
Yeah, I would take a rip. For sure.
It's kind of weird that you wouldn't.
I'd go slow as hell, but I'd take a rip just to see. I want to feel the seamless gearbox and the arrow and
off that big GP bong.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's laced with cocaine and fentanyl and all kinds of
gasoline, baby.
But yeah, Petrucci was saying that Suzuki was one of the best bikes he's ever ridden. Which,
damn,
Suzuki's leaving the grid. It's so sad.
Are you so sad?
Yeah, aren't you? Like, it's Suzuki.
I don't care.
Why not? Come on. Come on. We're losing.
Bye-bye, Suzuki.
We're losing manufacturers. Come on.
I know.
Come
on. That's the money game, though. I guess they got to charge more for their motorcycle. Just charge $30,000 for your top tier bikes.
Sell more little cars in India, then you can keep racing. Come on, folks. Come on. But it was cool to see Petrucci back on the grid. He's had a roller coaster of a time because he left GP, then he raced the Dakar.
Ooh, that sounds like fun.
The desert races.
Yes.
He won a stage in the Dakar, which was crazy.
That's
never nobody's ever done that before. Like won a GP race, won a Dakar.
Did he do Dakar on an SV6?
No, did it on a KTM. He's not a Suzuki guy. He just did it as like a moonlight thing.
Oh, he's not a Suzuki guy.
No, he's not he's ridden for Ducati and KTM.
I don't know who Petrucci is.
You're gonna get there. You're gonna get there.
Slap my
you're gonna get there with
noviceness out there.
Yeah. But I don't know. It's just really sad that Suzuki's leaving the grid.
Could you imagine SV650 in the sand?
No. No, I cannot imagine that. We'll have to ask Josh how that would go. And then finally, some Discord commentary about the race here. Bankshift Bill said, Miguel is part fish.
He's part fish?
He's the merman.
He's the merman.
Yeah, KTM merman. I love that quote of him. It's so funny. And then 2OK also said, the real question is, who's betting on Jack as a wildcard champ just to put the piss in Ducati's milk for letting him go?
I will.
Terrible bet. You will not win. The man is 40 points down with 3 races to go.
75 points up for grabs.
He needs Aleix, Pecco, and Fabio to crash basically. He needs to win every single race.
He wins everyone.
That would be great. Maybe he'll win Phillip Island, home race, Australia.
Welcome to Wacky Whitney's world of Not gonna happen.
Yeah, but it was an exciting race. It was a really good race this weekend.
I like jumping in here. The third race watched. It's nuts.
It's nuts.
And you said the first half was boring. Or it was
of the season.
Yes.
Of the season. There was some exciting stuff, but it wasn't as exciting.
I mean, I guess it's when it's almost done. Yeah. That's when it's gonna get really wacky.
Yeah. 2021 had some more wackiness, and then 2020 was just absolutely bonkers. Like, it was
so excited.
Really
I feel
weird
like I've got
year.
a season of unsolved mysteries to watch.
Yeah. So much crazy stuff happened in 2020. You're going to see in 2020 at the Red Bull Ring one of the gnarliest crashes that almost killed 2 riders.
Whoa.
Yeah, we almost lost Valentino Rossi that day.
What?
Yeah, you'll see it when you watch it.
Red Bull Ring?
Crazy
2020.
Crazy crash. Yeah, okay. That's why they put the chicane in it.
Damn.
Yeah, you'll see. Zarco was involved because of course he was.
So is he? What's the history of Zarco? Is he always just on fire?
Zarco's so interesting. He was a 2-time Moto 2 champion, so really talented guy. Came into GP and went to KTM and just blew up at KTM. He had problems with the management there. He had a bunch of going on.
Oh my god, dude! I loved KTM in the paddock when this last win. The manager just grabs his face and shakes his glasses off. And his glasses go flying. I thought, God, I was laughing so hard.
Yeah, the celebrations are great. Ducati's celebrations when they win are second to none.
I just want to watch 2 hours of just B-roll of them winning.
I got to show you a video after this podcast of in 2019 when Dovizioso beat Marquez at Silverstone. No, that was Rins. He beat Marquez at one of these races, and they have clips of all the announcers and what they did. It's so great.
I'm very excited. That's
everyone
what
lost their mind. Yeah, we'll definitely check that out.
What's the stream saying?
Let's see what the stream saying here. Did Zarco get paid to not pass Bagnaia?
Ooh, that's what I was thinking
maybe he got a little bonus there. That would be quite the interesting thing. Northern Tread says Aleix and Brad had the best battle IMO. Aleix is still in the points. He is. I wouldn't put it past Aleix. He could maybe get it. It would be crazy, but he could do it. Jose says, I'm also calling for Big Miller comeback. That would be awesome.
Comeback.
Il Bald says that's a big difference between American and European motorsports is politics. That's very true as well. El Binda liked your glass bubble race.
Yeah,
that's
dude,
a great
it's
thing
the
as
future.
well.
We'll all be in the geriatric section.
Yes.
just smoking our cotton candy futuristic vape pens.
Yep. Whimsical Stray says, we don't all die in underground parking garages. They could vent the fumes.
They could vent the fumes. I'm just thinking of that many bikes all going off at once at race pace for an hour. It's a lot different than a goddamn parking garage that I walk to very briefly from my car.
It's a little different. Yeah, definitely a little different. But that's what the chat had to say. And I think that's going to wrap up this inaugural YNGP podcast. Predictions. All right. Next race is Phillip Island.
Phillip Island.
Jack Miller's going to win. Home race. Recently married. He's going to take it. He's going to win.
All right.
Fabio's going to come second.
Fabio's going to be second.
And then P3, Zarco. Wild card.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, that's my prediction. Jack Miller winning. Fabio second. Zarco third.
What's Pecco going to do? Crash his ass?
Pecco might crash, I think. Okay. Too many corners for Pecco.
Too many corners for Pecco. It looks like a fun track. So
yeah. Predictions for you? What do you think?
No idea.
Come on.
Jack Miller's going to win the next 3 races. I was going to say Pecco.
Pecco wins?
Yeah. No, Pecco doesn't win. I want Jack Miller to win. He's marrying a lady named Ruby, which is the name of my daughter. So
yeah, that's nice.
Me being a lady.
Yeah.
Jack Miller's going to win. Pecco, second or third.
You think so? And who else on the podium?
Fabio? No, I think Fabio's going to eat it again.
Come on, no chance. With all the corners at that track, no way.
Look at the races that I've witnessed.
That's true. Yeah, you don't know what Fabio does because I
don't know what Fabio does.
He's the consistent, always P6 and above guy. Like that's why he's world champion right now and in the lead because he's always there. It's really weird that he's crashed out 2 times already this year or 3 times. No, 2 times. He didn't finish in the points last race, but in my mind, he crashed basically.
Miller, Fabio, Pecco.
Miller, Fabio, Pecco. I think Miller, Fabio, Zarco. That's my prediction.
You think Zarco's... Well, it'll be fun to watch Q2 for the next race and see what's up.
For sure. Yeah. Well, guys, that concludes the podcast. we have a nice little outro we're going to play now. So,
ready? 1, 2, 3.
Thanks for checking out the YNGP podcast. If you've made it all the way to the end, I can guarantee you're going to love signing up for our Discord server. Join the community at www.yaminoob.co. Memberships start for as little as $5 a month, and you'll get the chance to send in comments, questions, and feedback to the show, as well as watch it live. Sign up today at www.yaminoob.co.